Deep in the hot and arid desert SA. Hiding a laboratory. The living laboratory is extremely cruel. The subjects in this room are worker ants of inferior status. Because of the rise and fall of the ant kingdom, they become containers of live food. Every year at the time of the spring and summer, the cactus that lives here start flowering and seeding. For the small animals that live here, cactus flowers are rare delicious food of the year. A squirrel mother is teaching how to find these flowers. Because these flowers can provide the necessary protein for the body. But due to the dry and hot desert weather, these flowers bloom very briefly. To store the flowers' secrets, there's another small animal that lives here. I've researched a method. Storage of bile in the living body. They're called honey ants every time summer comes around. God's ant will create some great worker ants as a container for storing flower nectar. At this time, the workers are in charge of collecting 10 flowers. Will constantly go out to pick nectar. Then, gather 10 honey slowly and feed other honey ants. When honey ants are constantly being fed, the belly of the honey ant will be inflated. Gradually inflated. Finally, every honey ant under the feeding of worker ants. Body size increased by 20 times. So that the bile is not digested by the bile ants. The body structure of the honey ants has also changed. When the honey flowed into the body of the honey ant, the honey is stored in a bag called the gallbladder. The bottom of this bag has a valve. It'll stop the bile from flowing into the ant's stomach and be digested. The abdomen of the bile ant is composed of hard patches and soft joint membrane. When there is no storage, these joint membranes will shrink. The plates will fold. Now about the size. They're no different than normal ants. When you need to store your flowers, these joint membranes will open up. It stores 20 times the size of the body. When the honey ant's abdomen is filled to the maximum, then they'll be hung in a cool, well-ventilated place. To avoid fungal infections in the following months, they'll become a food reserve for all the ants, hanging there motionless for lack of food. Worker ants will gently stroke the honey ants for the honey ants to release the stored honey. Then feed me. After the bile ants discharge the abdominal fluid, they'll be like deflated balls. Back to normal this weird way of storing. Considered a strategy of ants to cope with a long-term lack of food. But this strategy, it also gives them some trouble. The most common are humans.